Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Wander to the Edge. My name is Adam Asher from the Edge of Adventure.
And I'm Zan from Where Gals Wander.
And this is that time of the weekend where we get to introduce you to great friends and travelers. And we got a great guest coming up today. But before we introduce her, our guest for today, let's check in with Zan and make sure she's doing okay after Labor Day weekend. You were pretty busy from what I
I
hear.
was. I was. I actually went to a wedding out in Palm Springs. And just side note, the temperature in Palm Springs this weekend did hit, according to all the thermostats or thermometers outside, 131. And the outdoor wedding was 124 degrees. So that was fun.
But it was a dry heat.
It was a dry heat. It
Yeah.
absolutely was.
So it didn't even seem warm.
No.
Right?
Well, it made me realize that when I said I'm leaving Chicago, I never want to see snow again, that this is what I get. So there you go.
I'm glad you had a good time.
Yeah.
Here in Georgia, it was also kind of warm over Labor Day weekend. I also attended a wedding. I didn't really think about the Labor Day time frame as being prime for weddings, but it's 2020.
Yeah.
And anybody that had a wedding planned earlier in the year, it's absolutely been crazy to try to reschedule it. But I'm glad your friends got hitched. My friends over here got hitched as well. And
oh, it wasn't you?
It wasn't
you?
me. No,
Oh.
it wasn't me.
Are you sure?
I am. I'm holding out.
We need to talk about that one time too. What exactly are you holding?
Anyway, coming up today on Wander to the Edge, we do have a great guest, and tell us a little bit about Karrie, who's joining.
Karrie, yes, Karrie is known as Bicoastal Disorder, which I just love that handle on Instagram. She has done ice diving. She's won an Emmy. She has dual citizenship from the US and Australia. I'm not going to ruin it. Just wait and see. She's awesome. So, and
no, go ahead. This is your time.
She's right here on
Wander
to the Edge.
To the Edge. Cue the music. Here we go. Try that again. Cue the music. Karrie, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Adam. Hey, Zan. It's great to be here.
Hey, Karrie. I hope you know what you're getting yourself into.
I watched a few of your episodes, so I'm not a stranger to this, but yeah.
Well, listen, as they say, it is too late.
I'm here.
Well, it is great to have you, and this is a fun time. I mean, we love what we do. We love the opportunity to share with the audience, great friends and travelers, people who, for one reason or another, appreciate travel. And it's not always the same reason, right? It's always that love of travel and getting outside and being outdoors. And that's kind of what ties this group together. But it's not always the same reason or the same story that gets people to that point. But it is what we share in common. And it's great to have you on the show today, Karrie. As you know, as Zan mentioned, there's quite a few things to talk about today. You've had a very interesting life. You have a great story to tell, and we look forward to getting to know you today.
Awesome. It's great to be here and actually, move from the Instagram space and, the YouTube space to actually kind of more the in life. So thanks for the invite.
I think that is important. That's one of the things that's kind of cool about this is we get to know people in a very special way, but then also through the video and through the program, other people have that same opportunity. So people are going to get to know you in a whole new way today. And so where should we start, Zan? I mean, you brought up the ice diving and,
I know.
and the dual citizenship. Your call. Where should we start?
Well, just to that point about sort of breaking that third wall, right? Because I follow you on Instagram, follow all your adventures, your love of the mountains. You describe yourself as being a nature addict. But let's start with the handle, because that's what really caught my eye. Bicoastal disorder. So what coast are you on now? And kind of tell us a little bit about the story behind that.
Yeah, I'd love to, because I often forget I've had that handle for so long. And so the origin story of that is I got on Instagram, I think in 2013, and I was living in Key West, Florida, had a dream job and a great life. And then I got a job offer in Monterey, California. Again, dream job, great life. And it was with the Monterey Bay Aquarium. So at the time I was married, and my husband remained, my then husband, now ex-husband, which is also part of my story and my journey. He stayed in Key West for a few months. I lived in California, and we had a bicoastal marriage. And I very much felt like I had a bicoastal disorder, because I was literally straddling the continent, trying to keep, a handle on my friends and my life, and at the time my husband in Florida, but also establish and build a life in Monterey in the central coast of California, so that hopefully he could join me. I ended up eventually going back to Key West, and then I eventually landed where I am now, which is in Portland, Oregon. So West Coast again. West Coast is the best coast. Sorry, I just have to say. I spent my whole, kind of some of the formative years, all the way through my I guess mid 30s on the East Coast. So I dig the West Coast, but that's where it originally came from, bicoastal disorder. And I've talked to a few folks and just asked, like, should I change it? Because my roots are being firmly planted here, unless I were to become an expat, which I would love to live abroad again. But, it resonates with people. It has caught people's eye. And I think now that I've had the handle for more than 7 years, it's stuck, and I will always have a bicoastal disorder, because I'll always have, a love affair with the ocean, with kind of the warm tropical, subtropical Florida ocean. But I also definitely love the Pacific for its like raw, sheer raw beauty. So that's my disorder.
How many coasts does Australia have?
All of them? Yes, the answer is yes.
So how does that factor into your story? Okay, we got the East Coast over here, the West Coast, and yet you are a dual citizen, U.S. and Australia.
Yes. So there's an important distinction there. I normally don't introduce myself as Australian. Obviously, I don't have the accent, the very cool accent. But so my dad was U.S. military stationed in Australia. So I was born at home in my parents' bedroom, in kind of a very, midwife, like hippie little scenario while my dad was in the Air Force. And so I have the benefit of being born in Australia, which has afforded me dual citizenship, but I don't necessarily consider myself Australian, because I think that would be a little bit disingenuous. I did, however, after I graduated college in 2001, I returned to Australia. Actually this week, now that I think about it, 19 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And so I left at the time, my college boyfriend. I said goodbye to my entire family. I hopped a plane with a one-way ticket to Australia, and I brought along a friend who was going to hang out and be a beach bum for a while. And then a week after returning to the place of my birth, 9/11 happened. And so, long story short, I turned what was supposed to be the next chapter of my life, literally starting anew, a recent college grad. I think I was a little crazy, but the world was a crazy place. And after 9/11 and being an American abroad, you didn't really know what was going to happen. So I turned what was supposed to be the next chapter of my life into a 4-month backpacking trip. So I had a beautiful time. I saw a lot of the East Coast of Australia. I got to camp in the Red Centre, which is at the heart of the heart of the continent, basically, where the beautiful rock, if you've ever seen it, the monolith Uluru, which is the Aboriginal name, it's also known as Ayers Rock. But anyway, so I spent basically 4 months in Australia, and that was the last time I was there, and I cannot wait to get back. I have sworn that at some point in my life, I'm definitely going to return to Australia, because the people are phenomenal, the nature is incredible, and I just can't wait to get back.
That's so cool. My husband was in the military station in Australia, and true story, as he was off doing that and married to someone else and having kids, I was learning how to drive a car. So I didn't have a chance to experience all of that, but I hear the stories, and that's definitely on my wish list. I have to ask, because I do hear this in the house because of that experience. Do you ever try the Australian accent? Can we hear you attempt the Australian accent?
No, I feel like it's like sacrilege or something because it's been so long. I can't, I don't, I have, you know, I'm sober right now. I think I'd need a couple beers to try, you know, yeah, I can't.
Adam, Australian accent?
I think it would be disingenuous, and I feel like I would be pretending. But it is a beautiful accent, right? I mean, I love the different English accents. Of course, in the U.S., you have the different accents. Oh, except generally speaking, we don't have an accent in the U.S. That, you know, the Brits understand that, Aussies yeah, we don't have an accent.
You have that
Ours is
Southern
like,
accent. No, you have that Southern accent that comes out, particularly after a few whiskeys.
what? Right? Well, I mean, you can't blame me. I mean, I reckon.
You reckon, y'all?
But yes, so great accent. But I'm not gonna. I think I'm gonna side with Karrie. I'm not gonna butcher the Australian accent, and it probably they would. You know, they're really the ones. I think probably because of the influence of American television in the world, the Australians and even the Brits, right? They're the ones that really have more practice at sounding American than we do, perhaps trying to sound Australian. But I find that I love the accents. I mean, whether it's British or South African or from down under, I think those accents are always fun to listen to. It gives everything just a certain amount of class, right? Just to have an accent.
I once read, or I once heard that in American advertising, ads know, like market research shows that if your ad is spoken by someone with a British accent, Americans are more likely to believe that it has value or that, you know, it has worth, and I just think that's so true.
I think it's true. And meanwhile, they're taking that to the bank. They're like, yes. But anyway, all right. So you have dual citizenship. We've established that. Back to the whole bicoastal thing. You were in Florida. You were in the Keys. You were a spokesperson for Coral Reef in the Florida Keys.
Yes.
Tell me how that happened and what that means.
Absolutely. So prior to that, and this is part of the story, I was working in Washington, D.C. for the federal agency NOAA, which is the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration. I was working at a dive shop. I was a dive master, which is like a level below dive instructor. And I loved all things ocean. I loved all things water. I just, you know, I didn't really grow up a water baby, but I kind of always wanted to be a Renaissance woman and just have as many experiences in life as I possibly could. And so I fell into diving actually when I was in Australia after I graduated college. And then I was kind of turning it into a career. And then, you know, I thought I was going to be like a beach bum, scuba bum, kind of traveling the world. But then I turned my degree in journalism and my passion for the ocean. I was able to merge those and take it to a career with NOAA, which is the nation's ocean science agency, science and conservation agency. So I was working for them in DC, and this job came up in the Florida Keys, specifically with the Florida Keys National Marine Sanctuary. And that's kind of a mouthful, but basically people are familiar with the national park system. The national marine sanctuaries are a little bit like national parks underwater, or more like national forests underwater. So they actually protect the aquatic resources, be it shipwrecks, coral reefs, seagrass, hard bottom habitat. Actually down in Southern California, there's the Channel Islands National Marine Sanctuary. There's several actually in California, and I'm embarrassed that I can't recite them all because I used to be able to. But so I went down to Key West, and our marine protected area encompassed the entire archipelago of the Florida Keys. So it surrounded this entire community, and it was this amazing experience to basically be the spokesperson, the media relations person, kind of community engagement and public involvement manager, if you will, for the world's third largest barrier reef. So Australia has the first largest barrier reef. Then there's the kind of off Belize in Mexico, the second largest barrier reef, and then Florida Keys are home to the third largest. So I was there for about close to 6 years. Really great experience. I got to wear board shorts and flip-flops to work. You know, I left all my power suits and high heels behind, you know, on Capitol Hill in DC, and really traded it in for a totally different lifestyle. Became a water woman, bought a boat, got into stand-up paddleboarding, and just loved life. for, I still do today, but it's really different because the Florida Keys will ruin you for living almost anywhere else because they're magical.
I didn't realize how much the three of us had in common because Zan and I both like dive bars.
Yes. There's plenty of those in the Keys too.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of diving, so you mentioned that your last job involved diving and your role there. Tell us about ice diving. What is that? Where did you do that? What's that all about?
Yeah, it's so ice diving. So before I moved to Florida, because living in South Florida, warm water, warm temperatures, it made me kind of soft. It made me kind of a chicken when it came to cold water. So the ice diving chapter was my Washington, D.C. days. And I got affiliated with the dive shop. And what was really cool was there were a lot of, strong women in that dive shop that were wreck divers and cave divers. And cave diving is like next level. And ice divers. So I was involved. I mean, this was my community. These were my people. We would, spend lots of time together. One of them ended up becoming my roommate, like just, kind of thick as thieves in the dive community. And so I started down that path to become potentially a dive instructor. I also started potentially pursuing cave diving, which is very dangerous. So I have, there was kind of a fork in the road where do I want to go into that really highly technical realm of scuba diving into cave diving? And then I decided to do, this is actually a silly story. So I guess the year was maybe 2006. The documentary March of the Penguins came out. I went to see it in the movie theater and I left the movie theater and said, I'm going to dive in Antarctica. I want to see penguins. And about 2 years later, I made it happen. So I guess that was 2005, 2007. So yeah, saw a documentary, super inspired, decided I needed to see it with my own eyes, worked toward my ice diving certification, which I got up on the St. Lawrence Seaway, which is upstate New York and Canada. So got ice diving certified there, which you don't always have to do this in order to ice dive, but you literally cut a giant hole into the ice. And so you're tethered to your dive buddy. So if you see, if you're not divers yourself but you've probably seen photos or, marketing or advertising for scuba diving and it's people just kind of floating effortlessly, maybe wearing bikinis or wetsuits. But ice diving is a lot more gear. I had to wear dry suits. It's a lot more of an investment in gear and technology, but you're also tied to your dive buddy, which is very unique because there's not many times that you're actually tied to your dive buddy and you're tied to the surface. So this is only when you're actually cutting into the ice. And so there's a form of communication that happens, like a series of tugs on the line that you're tied to. And so I can't remember because even though I hold the ice diving certification, it has been years since I've been ice diving, but it was a really cool experience, pun intended. And I've always believed that life begins where your comfort zone ends. And so I was just all about saying yes, like yes to this, yes, any opportunity. I wouldn't say I'm an adrenaline junkie because it's different. I'm definitely not an adrenaline junkie, but I've been fortunate enough to be exposed to different adventures and to really embrace them wholeheartedly. So I did, like I said, I went to Antarctica. It was a refurbished Russian research vessel that had been turned into not a cruise ship. I think there was only maybe between like 25 and 40 guests on it. It was quite small, but we left from the southern tip of Argentina, the town of Ushuaia in Tierra del Fuego. We left and we boarded this ship and crossed the Drake Passage and, ended up diving with leopard seals, and we saw shipwrecks. So I dove on a shipwreck in Antarctica, and it's probably the most amazing thing I've ever done. And just how many whales, like you're on the bow of the boat, you're on the deck and you're looking and it's whales and seals and penguins and seabirds, and it was magic. And yeah.
Wow. So you have described yourself as an awe seeker. Now that makes sense. I'm listening to you describe some of the things you've done recently, your passion for these kinds of things that goes back years and years. But describe that for me. Define it. What is an awe seeker?
I'm not alone in being that, but I admit that I haven't encountered a lot of people who refer to themselves that way. And I I've been thinking about like, when did I become an awe seeker, and when did I start identifying like that, as that? But so I recently posted on Instagram, or a couple months ago, and I said, don't, what did I say? Because just because I post like all these mountain photos of big vistas, don't be fooled. My heart is in the little things. And so I will walk for hours and just look for the small things, like whether it's bees pollinating flowers, or, tiny grasshoppers that, are just like larvae, basically. It's hard to actually put in words, and I really should have probably prepared better for knowing that you're going to ask me about that.
Yeah.
But I want to find a moment every day, at least every day, if not multiple times a day, that takes my breath away, and that makes me feel so humbled, yet so connected to the world and to everything. So it's both like macro, it's both small and large simultaneously. A lot of that started happening when I've never said this out loud, when I got a dog, because I would go for walks around my neighborhood, and I would suddenly get lost in just the walking, the act of walking, and the act of seeing things with brand new eyes. And so that's part of what I try to do, is apply to any situation. I do this a lot really effectively if I'm stressed out, like if I'm starting to feel anxious, I'll turn and try to find awe in something and find magic. And it helps with anxiety. It helps improve my mood. There's actually plenty of research on awe and the benefits that it has. It's very similar to, the benefits of nature, but I don't think you necessarily have to go into nature. You don't have to see the Grand Canyon or Antarctica or the redwoods. Like, it doesn't have to be that grand to find awe, which is why, I've talked to some people recently about kind of this idea of nearby nature, because Instagram, my entire Instagram feed is just like awesome women summiting awesome giant mountains. And I think it can feel really intimidating. But of course, that's a whole other story, because social media is, we put our best foot forward and kind of curate our life voyeuristically. But yeah, as an awe seeker, it boils down to just finding the magic, like everyday magic, because it's all around us all the time. And even earlier, when I was preparing for this, I was standing in my kitchen and I thought, where can I find awe in this moment? And I looked at the coffee grounds, and I thought of all the hands and people that have touched those coffee grounds, and like imagining for a millisecond, what is the story of all of those hands and all of those people? And suddenly I was looking at my grounds of coffee with like a reverence. And so, yeah, it might sound cheesy, but it just works for me.
No, I totally get it. And when I hear you talk about this, it's reminding me a lot of having that sense of gratitude as well, and seeking that, what I call at Where Girls Wander, more to life, and finding that joy in the little things, but also the connection. And as you talk about like the coffee grounds and finding the connection in the stories, and Adam, the edge of adventure, and your focus on travel with purpose and going beyond the status quo to find those stories of individuals and what makes life meaningful. Um, it makes me appreciate this conversation with you even more so, because to your point, Instagram, it's whatever we curate to put our stories out there, allowing other people to interpret our stories for us. And now we get to kind of share our stories ourselves. And I think that just helps connect people even further. It connects all of us here today. It connects the people who watch this, and hopefully just continues to grow.
Yeah, it is. This is a really unique opportunity. I'm so grateful to have it, because I do hope that, I've got, not a bazillion followers, but I think I've got 1,200 right now. And most of them, I don't know. They don't know me. And I do actually try to be quite vulnerable sometimes with my posts. And I think people, I'm channeling Brene Brown right now, like thinking about the power of vulnerability. And that's why I do it, because I'm not vulnerable because I want attention. I want to connect with people. I want to share stories. I want to hear those. I love long Instagram posts, like not like if I scroll down and I see someone, like I click the more button and I see like a lot, I'm like, ooh, there's going to be something here. It's not just like a hey, check out this, great, beautiful thing. But I think we crave connection, even, on like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, like that, after you get like the basic survival stuff, the next level up, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's basically connection. And so, yeah, so thank you for this opportunity to share my story.
All right, let's get to the important things. All right. Like winning awards. Okay.
I have to stop you. I have to stop you. So I think what I sent you was Emmy nominated, which is
I know. I guess my notes say nominated, but to me, that's a level of you kind of win something just being nominated. That's a big deal. But tell us about that, because I mean, listen, winning awards is on the hierarchy of needs. I think it's like up towards the top.
I think self-actualization is
yeah.
And Adam only says that because he is also an award winner.
Oh yes, and I want everybody to know. That's my main goal. That's my main goal in life, is that you need to know, the first thing you need to know. Yeah, it's listening to you talk, all kidding aside, I get it. And you're clearly a person who looks beyond the surface, whether it's the Instagram post or the coffee grounds. That's what I'm seeing as I'm getting to know you better. You always are looking past maybe just what we would see on the surface. But anyway, back to the important stuff. Emmy nominated. How did that happen? What was the project for?
Yeah. So back when I worked in the Florida Keys for the National Marine Sanctuary, one of the really awesome things that I got to do was work in partnership with the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, and the National Park Service. These 3 federal agencies worked on a television series called Waterways. And I produced, gosh, I think it was 11 episodes. Each of the episodes was 26 minutes long. So I was an executive producer and writer on those, and sometimes interview subject. And the topic was conservation, science and conservation of the marine environment in the Florida Keys. So we would talk about water quality, or sea turtles, or dolphins, or the coral reef, or fish spawning, or you name it. I'm a science nerd, and my Instagram bio would say that. If it would also say science nerd if it allowed me more characters, because that's I'm not a scientist, but I love science. And so I had under my belt this some TV experience. And then, how do I make a short story long, a long story short? When I found myself in Portland in 2015, I'd had my own company in Key West, and I let go all of my clients. So I was jobless in Portland. And that was a scary thing to be, because I've always had multiple jobs. Like, I've always just been kind of a workhorse and, really scrappy, and just always had a job. So at the time I was married, and it was great because my husband at the time was like, take a couple months, figure out what you want to do. And I was thinking, well, maybe do I want to get into television more full time? And our PBS affiliate here is the fantastic Oregon Public Broadcasting. It's both our PBS and our NPR, and they're wonderful. And I happened to, I knew that I couldn't just sit idly by during this time of unemployment or in between jobs. And I'm the type of person that likes to give back and do, community service and things like that. So I started volunteering at the Oregon Museum of Science. And then I also found this gig at OPB. And it was for what was the initial title was like production assistant. And it was 20 hours a week. So I ended up getting the associate producer credit because of all the work that I did. So over a period of 4 months, I volunteered. So technically I was a volunteer, but I worked 20 hours a week for 4 months on this television show on OPB called Oregon Field Guide. All of their episodes are online. It's fantastic. Oregon is a beautiful place to live, to experience. As you're watching this now, if you've never been to Oregon, I highly encourage you to come here. It's got everything from rugged coastline, world-class wines, to epic hiking, whitewater rafting and kayaking. It's got the whole shebang. But so I worked on Oregon Field Guide, ended up getting the associate producer credit on, at the time, it was the most kind of complex episode of the show that they'd ever done. And by the time I was involved, I think I logged 40 hours of footage, which is a lot. And it was from a previously undocumented slot canyon, which what that is it's kind of what it sounds like a slot canyon that had something like, I can't remember, like 40 waterfalls in it. And it had never been documented before. And so the film crew went out. I was not with them when they went out because that would have been probably the most amazing experience of my life. But they had these crazy climbers and mountaineers in addition to the, they had the film crew that was topside. Then they had these other adventurers that had like, GoPros, and then they brought in their own cameras. And so I logged footage that, I'd see 8 hours from the helmet cam, and then I'd see 8 hours from the chest cam, and then I'd see, so even though I never have been to this amazing slot canyon, I feel like I have seen what very few people have, because I've seen it so many different ways from so many different cameras. And so we went to the Emmys, the Northwest Emmys, and we were robbed. We got beat out by a documentary, which I have still yet to see, but it was about the Iditarod. And don't get me wrong, I love dogs. I adore dogs, but come on, the Iditarod has been done before. And this was a previously undiscovered slot canyon, so I think we were robbed. But if anyone's interested, the episode is called Discovering Valhalla. And it's on OPB, Oregon Field Guide. And that was my nomination.
Wow. Well, let's talk a little bit about Women Who Explore, because you've mentioned a couple times that with your dive experience, it was connecting with women, how you came to have all these amazing experiences. What is Women Who Explore, and how did you get involved with them?
Yeah, absolutely. So Women Who Explore is an international organization that connects women with adventure. There are local chapters throughout the US and Canada. There's also a smattering of chapters internationally in Africa and Europe. And so the local chapters, which I'm an ambassador for the Portland chapter, and we have a Facebook group with a few thousand women. We have an Instagram account, and all the chapters are kind of set up that way. It's social media, using social media to connect women, and it provides a safe space, safe digital space for a lot of conversations and authenticity and vulnerability. And it's everything from gear recommendations, or let's talk really candidly about sports bras, like, things that you may not want to talk about with guys. But we also lead trips. So, and not just trips and adventures, but I have, with the women in this community, I have organized and hosted goat yoga, volunteering at the Oregon Food Bank, Blazers that were, the Portland Trailblazers are our NBA team. We've done group nights and outings there. So much more. So it's not all just adventure, outdoor adventure. Some of it is more kind of community and public, the community service aspect, but definitely taken women on multiple hikes. We also have done overnight trips. We've gone rock climbing together. So it's for all levels. And one of the things that I really like, there's a few ambassadors in Portland. There's also elsewhere in Oregon, we've got some other chapters, but everybody has kind of carved out their niche. And my niche has kind of really become, I guess, my niche within Women Who Explore is maybe not even so much the adventure, but more the aspect of community, which is why I've really liked things like the goat yoga, where you get to, interact, you get to learn a little bit about something. And my favorite part of being an ambassador is at the end of an event, again, whether it's a mountain hike or volunteering at a food bank, I see the women around me exchanging numbers, or, following each other on Instagram. And then later I will see them, like maybe it'll be another week or 2 weeks, I'll see them posting photos off hiking together. So I like to connect dots, and I like to connect people. And Women Who Explore, I've now been an ambassador for a couple of years, and I found them at a really pivotal time in my life. I mentioned earlier that I am divorced, and it was a very amicable divorce, but even a very amicable divorce is game-changing and life-changing. And so what I found was the kind of foundation of my world was completely, rocked. And my husband had become, very much my life. And when he was not in the picture, I had this opportunity to kind of rebuild. And what did I want that to look like? And I knew that I wanted a community of women, because like I wasn't in a sorority. I actually had way more guy friends than I ever had girlfriends. But I knew I was kind of at this time in my life in my late 30s where I was really craving kind of that honesty and authenticity of women. And also, side note, when you're in your late 30s and divorced, good luck just finding guy friends who just want to be platonic. But that's a whole other story. And so I found Women Who Explore, and it was exactly what I was looking for. It gave me purpose. And I think, we're all craving purpose. I've read, plenty of books on it, and I'm sure there's plenty of research, but once you have purpose to your life and to your day, it brings so much more meaning and enthusiasm and energy. And so it really reinvigorated me. And so, yeah, I'm, with COVID and everything going on, we're not doing hikes in person. So it is a little bit more challenging to engage a community online. We have tried some like virtual book clubs and virtual 5Ks and things like that. So we're trying to get creative in that space. But our Facebook community, I would say, is very active. I want to say we're upwards of 3,000 women in our Facebook group, which is not as big as some groups, but I think it's quality over quantity. And I love being able to see women just, ask for recommendations on hiking boots or trails to go to, or, rivers to kayak or things like that. And just women, unabashedly just giving advice and being really positive. And I think the world always needs more positivity. So I get to see that on a daily basis through my involvement with Women Who Explore.
Karrie, what would your advice be to the person who is now looking at the reality that something in their life is about to change, or perhaps it just changed? It's a big change, and the future is a little bit scary and uncertain, and it's not the kind of thing that they maybe anticipated. What's your advice, having been through something like that in your own life as a part of your own story? What's your advice to that person facing that right now?
Yeah. Time is your friend. Time is your friend. I think people, and I'm speaking from experience, can often rush into things. They may want to, if things are uncertain, and uncertainty is uncomfortable, which is why, again, life begins where your comfort zone ends. That edge, there's so much opportunity in that edge, but it can be scary as hell. And so, time is your friend. Don't rush into anything. I would lean in. One of the books that really helped me at a couple different points in my life, which is, it's a Buddhist book, actually, by, I think she's a Taoist Buddhist nun, Pema Chodron. It's called When Things Fall Apart. And she in it talks about it at one point, like, if the stove is hot and we get near it, we want to recoil from it. And that's important. Like, yes, if the stove is hot, you want to run away from fire. But when things get uncomfortable in life, if you lean into them, which is so contrary, that is so counter to what like our body and mind want to do. But if you actually lean into it, everything changes. If you lean into that discomfort instead of running away from it, there's so much waiting for you on the other side. The cliche, the only way out is through, I think is absolutely true. Trusting the journey, like definitely trusting the journey. Maybe kind of a not traditional suggestion would be, so after my divorce, I went through a year of yes. And I guess there's a book by that title, and I didn't know that, but I just decided I was going to say yes to everything. And it was things like, if a friend was like, hey, I've got an extra concert ticket, this is pre-COVID, I would say yes. And I went to concerts where I didn't know the band at all. And my favorite year of yes story is one I think you'll appreciate, because it does involve travel and getting out of your comfort zone. So after my divorce, I went on kind of like a little soul searching trip to Sayulita, Mexico, which is a lovely little town. I'm sure it's booming and it's getting much bigger now, but it's just north of Puerto Vallarta. And I went there for kind of like a surf yoga retreat, but it wasn't a formal retreat. It was one I just kind of made my own, like, did my own thing. And I went down there for about 5 days. And while I was there, I ended up meeting with my ex-husband's sister-in-law's mother. And I know that's kind of hard to like sister-in-law's mother. But anyway, she at the time was 82 years old. She lived part year in Puerto Vallarta. And we had lunch. because again, it was an amicable divorce. So the family, you know, everything's copacetic. And so this, at the time, I think she was 82, we're having lunch and we're swapping stories. And she's just got a wealth, like, you know, she's been married like 3 times and just all these great stories. And she says to me, she says, you know what? I need to drive to San Diego next month. Do you want to drive me across Mexico? And I was in my year of yes. And I had to say yes. And so I flew down the next month to Puerto Vallarta, and I got in like a little tiny compact car. I don't know if it was like a Kia Rio or something like that, with my viejita, my little old lady, Kathy, and her dog. And we drove, I don't know what that is, like 2,300 miles or something, like maybe it was 1,700. I can't remember. We drove across Mexico to get to San Diego. And we did that over like, I think 4 days, pedal to the metal. You know, State Department advisories galore. Don't go through this. Don't travel at night. Don't do this. And I was in my year of yes. And it was one hell of a ride. And so I think when you open yourself up to the universe and to opportunities, things will present themselves that you could never have dreamed about.
I can't even top that.
How do you follow this?
I know.
She's a very, like, she's a gifted communicator. And like, it's almost like, even though we're the ones doing the interview here, you know, she pulls you into the story.
I know.
And she's very good at it. This is an incredible interview. And we're a couple minutes, we got a couple minutes left here. And one of the things I needed to ask, just because, I mean, it is such an unusual thing to say that a person has done. You taught English in Thailand. Was that during your year of yes, or how'd you do that?
No, that was so after I graduated college, I did my 4-month backpacking in Australia, and then I came back and I got back together with my college boyfriend, and I knew I wanted to travel. I was like, all right, peace out. And I'm 40 years old right now. I just had a side note. I never thought I'd be living in the US. I thought for sure I would be an expat. It's just a lifestyle that always appealed to me. But so I was like, all right, you know, here I am with this, you know, long-term boyfriend. Let's go travel the world. And so we looked into teaching. We thought teaching would be a great kind of gateway or a way to see the world. And back then, so again, this is 2002. This is really pre like smartphone explosion and things like that. And we had to go into like, you know, job posting boards and chat rooms and like, you know, pull out your Lonely Planet Thailand, you know, the dog-eared hard copy. And so we decided Japan was our first choice. That was kind of a little bit harder, more complicated. So we went to Thailand and we took a month-long TEFL, which is teaching English as a foreign language certification. 6 days a week, 8 hours a day, got our licensure, our certificate, and then were placed to work in schools. We were in southern Thailand, which is on like almost on the Malaysian border. And so, you know, here I thought I'd be like teaching businessmen on a beach or something like really cush like that. But I ended up at a bilingual elementary school, and I taught 4th grade, and I taught in English, what was it? Math, history, PE, computer science, art. I basically was an elementary school teacher in Thailand. And I had like no clue what I was doing, because a TEFL, teaching English as a foreign language certification, does not make you an elementary school teacher. But so I did that for 9 months, and it was great. It's, you know, I thought for sure I was going to like get tuberculosis or get some sort of like crazy communicable disease, because the town we were in had pretty much like practically open sewers. It is a beautiful country. I am by no means painting it to be anything less than amazing, but we weren't in Bangkok. The infrastructure was not, you know, what we were used to. But life was an adventure. It was, you know, we barely spoke any Thai, and every day was a wild ride. And so that was my teaching English in Thailand story, and got to go to Cambodia, which I, you know, highly recommend. See the ruins of Angkor Wat, which I'd love to get back to. And our plan had actually been to continue kind of hopscotching around Southeast Asia, or maybe even teach English. At the time, where was it? In the Middle East. There were some gigs, some really lucrative gigs in Saudi Arabia, if you could, which I've actually been to. I spent a couple weeks there, and that's a whole other story that we probably don't have time for. But I ended up getting, when I was in Thailand, I ended up getting dengue fever, which is a mosquito-borne illness. And I did not get the hemorrhagic kind, because there's basically 4 strains. And I didn't get the hemorrhagic kind. but we decided that our health was really important. So after that, and after concluding the semester, we decided to come back to the US and kind of reassess this idea of, teaching abroad. And so, yeah, so I kind of forgot about the dengue fever. Yeah.
Karrie, anything else that you want to share with us, or anything else you want to ask Adam? As long as we have him here, and he has to answer anything that you ask. I didn't know if he mentioned part.
Wait, what was the question you had at the beginning about he's waiting, he's not married, he's waiting for someone, he's holding out?
What are you waiting for, Adam?
Perfection.
Basically.
Good luck with that.
Yes. Yeah, I know it's part of the story, part of my story. So, hey, listen, I'm gonna ask this final question. Okay, I got like the final question to just. This is a tough one. You ready, Karrie?
Yes.
Okay. Other than seeking awe, what makes you happy?
Oh, so many things. Seeing my dog so exhausted, like after he's been running and playing, that he look like he's panting and he looks like he's smiling, because dogs really don't smile. They, but they look like they're smiling. That makes me really happy. And a whole other adventure that I haven't actually talked about is I am in a new relationship, and my partner is also divorced, and he has 4 kids. So I am on the greatest adventure of my life right now, which is a dad's dad's girlfriend. We're not married, but to 4 kids. So it's not officially a stepmom, but I have what makes me happy and how I find awe is a little bit different, because now it's like, after this, I'm going to go fly a kite with a 10-year-old, and I can't wait. And I know that seeing him happy is going to make me happy.
Very well said. Again, I mentioned earlier, you're an exceptional communicator, and the stories themselves are intriguing, but the way you relate them and share them, I can see why you have had such an amazing life. You're an amazing person with this energy, and you look past, as I also mentioned earlier, you look past the surface. You see meaning in the dog's smile. What is it? It's like the goofy dog face. There's nothing better than that goofy dog face when the dog's like, yeah, this was a fun excursion. But also this new adventure that you're on. I think in life, if you go back 20 years, right? If we all go back 20 years to to ourselves 20 years ago, there are things that we thought maybe would happen, or things that would be different, and we really wouldn't have known how to deal with the loss or the change, whatever got us to this point. We wouldn't have known. Now we're on this side of it. We lived through it, whatever it was that changed our lives, that whatever we lost, whatever we thought we were going to have and didn't have in the end. And if you can embrace that, and you have the ability to, just accept the life as a wonderful life as it is, not as it was supposed to be, but as it is. I think you've said it, that in and of itself is one of the most amazing journeys, amazing adventures that we can embrace. And you're doing it. And I think that's why your story is so intriguing and so inspirational. So yeah, I don't know what the future holds for you, but I think you're going to continue to inspire people along the way. So Karrie, thank you for your time today. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, and just thanks for seeing past the surface.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Zan, so much. I look forward to following your adventures as well, and hope our paths can cross in real life someday.
Me too. Me too. And if you want to continue following Karrie and seeing her stories and hearing her stories, she's on Instagram at Bicoastal Disorder.
And you should. You absolutely should. She's a great account, great person, as you've gotten to know her today. So follow her over there and let her know what you thought of the interview, and just how much you enjoyed getting to know her today. Another Saturday edition of Wander to the Edge. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Bye.